Welcome to Ghost Hunting, getting started. Thanks for tuning in. If you're new here, welcome and thank you so much. I'm Tim Arnwine. I'm a retired paramedic turned ghost hunter and author. Currently, I'm the case manager and an investigator for War Party Paranormal and a co-founder of Ghostly Experiences Inc. Now, this week, we're going to be talking about the investigation part 1. We're going to be talking about investigation guidelines, types of investigations, types of hauntings, the weather and ghost hunting, and the best time to investigate. So, you got your first investigation. Congratulations. That's so cool. This is the fun part. And enjoy it because you worked hard to get there. But before we start going roam around in residentials and businesses, let's just take a quick review of the rules we talked about last week. 1. Credibility is everything in this. Okay? There's a lot of skeptics out there of ghost hunting. So don't make up evidence, don't exaggerate evidence. Okay? It'll catch up with you. And if you don't get any evidence, that's okay. It happens. I'm always very upfront with the client, and I will tell them, listen, there's no guarantee we'll catch anything because ghosts don't make appointments. Rule 2, privacy is everything. It's crucial to the clients. Okay, if you can show that you're going to be private with the evidence and not, put their location all over the internet and stuff like that, they appreciate it, and it'll get you more investigations down the road. Okay. Because not any homeowner wants their house slapped all over the internet, known as being haunted. And there's not many businesses that want to be known as being haunted. Many believe it's bad for business. Like there's a place down here, a restaurant. Now, a few years ago, they had this horrific scene, multiple murders. And I've been in that place a few times, and I've talked to the staff. And there is activity there. But the management will never let a team in there because they just don't want to be known as haunted. So if you're going into an investigation and you want to do something live from it, or you want to post evidence, always ask the client ahead of time. It just shows respect. Rule 3, go in cold. What I mean by that is, once you got an investigation, don't tell your team all the specifics of the activity. If your team can go in there with no preconception of the activity, it makes it a more honest investigation. Okay? And rule 4, not everything's haunted. Okay? So go in there with an open mind. Look for other things that can be causing the activity, like electrical leaks. We did a house once, and this gentleman swore when he was standing in this one part of the house, he thought he was being watched, or he's being touched. And what it was like a bar, and there were like 3 outlets there. So when I did an EMF sweep, just real brief, we're going to get into this more. Normal EMF is 2.5 milligauss and below. Now, when I did this one outlet, it was blowing like 4, 5, 6 times greater than that. So any amount of EMF that high will give you the impression you're being watched or being touched. So just always go in there with just that something else can be happening. Okay? Now we also talked about when you're interviewing the client, you or your case manager, what you're going to hear their experiences were. Now, like I said before, don't be judgmental. They don't need a judgmental person. They need someone empathetic to their concerns. But now, especially since you're going into the location, you may experience these things. Okay? Now, some of them may be, you're being watched, like that gentleman. You might be like you're being touched. Hairs will stand up on your arms or back of your neck. You may experience unexplained sounds like knocking, footsteps. Unexplained smells like tobacco, perfume, flowers. You may experience unexplained shadows, which usually, unexplained shadows, usually, as I explained before, they're usually peripheral, out of sight, very quick, a glimpse. Now, a popular complaint you may hear is that my dog's going crazy. He's barking at nothing. Or my cat's hissing at nothing. Very odd pet behavior. And there's a reason for that. Dogs and cats hear on different frequencies than we do. And they also see deeper into the light spectrum than we do. So it is possible that they are seeing or hearing things that you can't experience. All right? So other things you might get devices going on and off, lights going on and off. There's been reports of light bulbs popping. You turn on a light bulb and it pops, and you swore you just put it in last week. The theory is that their energies will shorten the life of the light bulb. Okay, and then of course you have your pranksters, ones that will move things, or take things and then they disappear, then they suddenly reappear. And of course, you have the opening doors, cabinet doors, things like that. So these are things that you may experience. So, like I said, don't be judgmental when you hear them. Be empathetic. Okay. So let's talk about investigation guidelines. Now, investigation guidelines, and there are some suggestions. These are going to help you with your investigations. They're going to help you, maybe get some activity. Okay. One, don't trespass. There's no piece of evidence worth getting arrested for or shot. Two, don't investigate it alone. Reason for that is two, safety reasons. God forbid something happens. You want someone there to help you or call rescue. Two, confirmation. Now, you might be there all alone and see the greatest apparition ever seen. Wouldn't it be nice to have someone there who can maybe see it with you, or at least confirm what you're feeling, to have some kind of record of it? And three, if you can, check the location prior to the investigation. Two reasons for this: safety, and then trespassers. Now, you might be invited to the location, okay, but you might not. There might be people there who weren't invited, trespassers. So that's a safety concern right there. But it's also, if you're doing an EVP session or you're doing video work, you'd really like to know where everybody is. Who all's there on the location, so they can be accounted for. So you could jot it down as activity. And for safety reasons, I did a place once, a building. I went there during the day for the preliminary. And there were holes in the floors all over the place. The rails were real loose. It was real dangerous to walk around in the daytime. So I figured nighttime, So the full investigation, I showed up a couple hours early. I scrounged up some wood from the area, and I laid around on the floors, make it as safe as possible. Okay. Now another one is obvious: don't drink, don't do drugs, because it impairs your judgment. Now an important one for me is don't provoke. Okay. Because if you provoke and you anger something, then you leave because you're done with the investigation. Now, whatever you angered can actually lash out at the clients because they brought you in. Okay? I had a guy on my team once. One night. That was all it took. I asked him to go upstairs and do some baseline readings with the other members of the team. And within 5 or 10 minutes, I hear this yelling upstairs. He's like calling something out, challenging him to come get him. And it scared the hell out of the client. And then our credibility took a hit, and she thought we just brought in nuts. So don't provoke, okay? Now, some suggestions On the flip side of don't provoke is be nice. Show respect. Say thank you when you're done. Thank them for their time. Reason you're doing all this is because you're trying to make a connection with something. Okay, you're trying to show goodwill. Because let's say you have to come back on a follow-up, or if it's a historic location that you go to a lot. If you can show goodwill and you can show that you're not there to harm them, you just want to see if they want to talk to you and get a message out. You have a better shot at it. And introduce yourself. Because if you're doing an EVP session and you're saying, "What's my name?" Do you know my name? And you get a response, well, you didn't give them your name. So introduce yourself. It's just like any other person. Just be polite and show respect. You'll make a better connection that way. Okay, another suggestion is, was there a foreign language spoken in this place? Because I know down here in South Florida, we ask a lot of questions in Spanish. Okay, I've talked to some Canadian groups who actually ask a lot of questions in French. Because you got to remember, wherever you are in the country, there's little pockets of nationalities everywhere. So if you're doing a location and it's a German history, see if you can ask things in German, Italian, things like that. All you're trying to do is make a better connection. Now, if you're in a place that has, historical, that has like a time era factor, ask questions pertaining to that. Like down here in South Florida, we do a few Prohibition time places. Believe it or not, we got them down here. So we ask questions like, were you allowed to drink booze? What was your favorite liquor? Just ask questions pertaining to the area. All you're trying to do, like I said, is make a connection. Okay. Now, if it's really inactive and quiet, you can always urge them a little. Like let's say you're gonna leave a room. You're gonna try somewhere else. You could just say, "Listen, we're gonna be leaving this area in 5-10 minutes. If you want to talk to us, now's your chance." And that way, it gives the ghost the opportunity to see that you're moving on, and this might be their last chance to get a message. Or you could give them an out. Say something like, "Listen, we're getting ready to go, but if you want us to leave now, we need a sign." And you can literally just hold up like a device, a REM pod or something. And you remember, always show them the procedure. You hold up the REM pod, you touch the antenna, and the lights go off and all that. So explain it to them. If you want us to leave, you got to give us a sign. Light up this device, and we'll leave. But then, you got to leave because, you want to keep your word. Okay. Now, depending on your comfort level, some people are comfortable with it, somewhat. You can always give them permission. You can stick out your hand and say, "Listen, give me a light touch here. Let me know you're here." Or on my shoulder or something. But at the same time, you got to set some boundaries. You're going to say, "Give me a light touch on my hand, but no pushing, no shoving. You can't harm me. I just want to know you're here." Okay? Now, the last guideline is, because everybody's got one, cell phones. Okay? If you're in an investigation, you got to turn your cell phone off or on silence. Okay? Cell phones will drive EMF meters crazy. So you'll be getting false alerts all night. The lights will be on and off all night, and it's not that there's a convention of ghosts. It's just that your cell phone's driving them crazy. Or you could turn them on silent. I have a family like most everybody does, so I turn mine on silent. My phone goes on silent. But I've been doing this long enough where I know where the range is between the EMFs and the phone, so I'm real careful about that. But the reason you want it on silent at least is because If you're in the middle of an EVP session and the phone rings or you get a ding from a message, you could possibly that dinging could be stepping on something they're trying to tell you. Okay? Just some suggestions and some guidelines to make your life easier and hopefully have you get a better connection. Okay? So let's talk about the types of investigations you're going to get. Okay. You're going to have types of investigations you're going to be performing, I should say. One is called the preliminary. Now, the preliminary is basically you take a couple team members for a couple hours, 2 to 3 hours. You're going to go to the location. Okay? And what you're really there to do is get a visual of their concerns and the hot spots. But now remember, now you're walking in with an open mind. So you're also going to start looking for other things that could be causing the activity. You know, you'll do an EMF sweep, see if that's it. Is there animal activity? Anything like that. Okay? Now, at the same time, you can do some preliminary evidence. You know, you can do EVP sessions, pictures, videos, see how the equipment responds. Okay? Now, if you decide to do a full investigation, you can bring that evidence back in and do some comparisons. You know, for all you know, you might have, you could have called a name. You know, or are you a male? Yes. So at least at your full, at least you can start working with that. Okay? Now, during the preliminary, you're going to decide, is it a haunting? Could it be a haunting? Okay. If I come back, do I need special equipment? For instance, if it's a large location and there's a lot of active areas, you may want to set up a DVR camera set. Or if you have a lot of like video recorders or GoPros or something like that, how many do you need for the areas? Okay? And do you need specialized people? Like, do you need a sensitive? Did you sense any negative in the house? Things like that. Okay? So if you decide you're going to do a full one, that's your next investigation. Now, the full investigation, you bring the whole team, all your equipment, any special equipment, things like that. Now, this investigation is going to be several hours now, because remember, you're going to try to go from room to room, or split the team up in different rooms and switch off, so everybody, because sometimes the ghost might not feel comfortable with me, but they might feel comfortable with Joe, and things like that. And if the activity shifts, you have to shift the equipment around. So it's several hours. Now, if you have a sensitive on the team, they can actually with your own evidence you're catching, you might be able to determine the nature of what's there. Is it a family member? Is it someone they knew? Could it be negative? Okay. And what you're going to determine also during a full, if it's negative, does it have to be removed, the ghost? Can the ghost be removed? It all depends. Okay? Now, after your full investigation, remember I said you're going to have a meeting with the client, bring evidence and things like that. You're going to decide on the next one, should there be a follow-up investigation? And sometimes you need a follow-up because, there might have not been a lot of evidence caught. There might still be activity going on in the house. The client might be uncomfortable still. Or you might not have caught any evidence. Now, remember I told you last time, if you didn't get any evidence or it seemed quiet, ask the client to keep a log of the time frame of the activity and things like that. And then, like a week or so, week or two. And then when you go back, your follow-up investigation may have to be tailored to that time frame. Okay? Now, your fourth investigation is what we call events. And these are basically a team will lead in a public investigation, usually at a historic location. Now, for us, these events are fundraisers for the location. We're just there to get our name out, investigate, of course, and then kind of educate whoever shows up, the public, of what we do. Now remember, when you leave any investigation, you know, you might want to protect yourself. For me, I've been doing this 15, plus years. I've always just said, out loud and in the car when I get in the car, you don't have permission to come with me. You're not going to be welcomed. And I guess it's work is for what I've seen, I've never run anything home. Now, if you're uncomfortable, you think there's negativity coming with you or anything like that, and you have someone available, you can ask that person to do a cleansing. And they can cleanse the clients and cleanse the location. And more important, these sensitives, empaths, they can actually educate the client how to better protect themselves going forward. Okay? So let's talk about hauntings. Now, there's 4 types of hauntings. One is the intelligent. These are the ones that can communicate, interact with you. Okay? Now, a lot of people think what they do might be bad, but the way I think of it is they're pushing the envelope to get your attention. They're going to push the envelope as far as their energy can let them to get your attention. They may start in a dream, and if you don't believe that, they may move on to a light touch. They're just going to push the envelope to see what they can get out of you. They can do this by making noises, whispers, moving things. Now, the next one is called a residual. Now, residuals are basically a piece of film looped in time, just over and over and over. Now, they're not intelligent. They don't know you're there. They're just doing something they've done over and over and over. Now, this usually has connections to a traumatic event, murder, suicides, fires, wars. Or it could be something as simple as just it's a repeated action. For example, my grandma lived to be 100. She lived in the same house for 50 plus years. Now every night, 2:30 in the morning, she would get up from her room, walk down to the kitchen, down this long hallway, fill up a little jelly jar full of water, and go back to bed. Now, years after she died, up till the time where my mom sold the house, 2:30 in the morning, there would be a mist coming down the hall. And it was the same thing. And apparently it was just grandma just go and get the water. She never knew, no one was there. So they're just going to do things over and over and over. Now, third one is the poltergeist. Now, poltergeists are called noisy ghosts. And that's what they do. They let themselves be known because they'll do physical disturbances. They'll throw things. They'll knock things around. They might, rock a chair. And that's just how they're going to let you know they're there. Now, the fourth one is the most rare, but is the most feared. It's the demonic. Now, demonics are usually, they will negatively possess a human. Now, when this human gets possessed, their strength is going to be 10 times more. I mean, they're just very, very strong. And they're also going to be very angry and lash out. Now, with all this strength and anger, they could hurt a person or hurt animals. So, that's the types of hauntings you'll see. Okay? Now, weather and ghost hunting. A lot of ghost hunters believe that weather and ghost hunting is connected. Okay? Now, there's a thermodynamic physics law. Energy can't be created nor destroyed, just transferred. So there's a lot of energy out there all the time. Now, weather changes come from energy being transferred to one place or the other. Okay? Now, there's atmospheric changes that are related, many believe, to ghost hunting. Lightning. Lightning is basically charged ions, and when they become greater than resistance, lightning occurs. Now, when lightning occurs, it generates EMF, right? Another one is temperature. Now, when kinetic energy is increased, temperatures increase. Okay? But think about it is, once that kinetic energy is increased and you know, more of it, it's going to be more of it in a concentrated area. And some believe that helps with manifestations. Now, another one is barometric changes. So barometric changes are basically um, molecules are colliding. And the more they collide, energy is created. But also with barometric comes barometric pressure that change. Now, it could be, barometric could get heavy. When there's barometric changes, it can be heavy. Like you can walk into a place and just know it. And I call it walking through a lead curtain because you just know it when you walk in there. Now, it can be just a lot of negative stuff going on and a lot of barometric changes. Okay. Or when things get better, and the barometric changes, pressure goes down, then it feels lighter. For instance, we did a house once, and when we first walked in, half the team was saying, this place feels heavy. There's a lot of heaviness to it. So we did the investigation, and we actually ended up doing a cleansing. But once, we did a cleansing, and we walked back in the house, you just felt the difference right away. Now there's a fourth one called infrasound. Now, infrasound is referred to as low frequency sound. And it's related, it happens with thunderstorms. Now, low frequency means 20 hertz. Now, 20 hertz is below human hearing. So, infrasonic symptoms could be faintness, dizziness, shortness of breath, fear, sorrow, or possible hallucinations. But since you can't hear infrasound, you don't know what's happening, a lot of those symptoms can be confused for ghostly activity. All right? So just be aware of the weather. If you want, make a note on your notes what the weather was that night. Okay. So, best time to investigate. It's like best time to go fishing. If you want to know. Now, a lot of people have reported the most activity is between 2 and 4 a.m. the witching hours. But a lot of ghost hunters really believe that ghosts don't have watches. They're like on their own time frame. Okay? And activity has been reported all hours. Okay? Like I can go to the Gold Coast at 11 in the morning and get EVPs. I can drive up to the old Davy Schoolhouse 2 in the afternoon and get EVPs. It happens all hours of the day. It's not a day or night thing. Okay? So when you make the initial contact or you're doing your first interview, it's a good idea to find out the time frame of the activity. Okay? It might save you a follow-up investigation. Okay? Now, let's talk about questions and comments. We really didn't get any this week, which is fine. I look forward to them, though. So if you do want to send in questions and comments about this segment, any of the segments, or basically anything on ghost hunting, send them in to Longhair Ghost Hunter, SOFL, that's my Facebook, or Ghost Hunting Getting Started at gmail.com, that's the Gmail, or send it directly to the channel. Okay, and I really look forward to comments. I like to share them with everybody here. Okay. Now, as you know, we've been putting EVPs on at the end of each show, just so you can get used to EVPs and see how they sound. Now, this week's coming from a historic location. We're gonna bring in the historic location aspect of what we talked about tonight. This location is called the Deering Estate. It was built by a man named Charles Deering back in the Prohibition time, and he built a wine cellar. He wasn't a rum runner. He wasn't a bootlegger or nothing like that. He just wanted to have his wine and his liquor and all that with no one bothering him. So, and he really disguised it. It was protected by a bank vault door. over that door he had like a swing open pseudo bookshelf. I don't know why people thought a bookshelf was in the cellar, but it worked. Because this place wasn't discovered until the infamous Hurricane Andrew hit South Florida. So, so this EVP is coming from the wine cellar. Now, I was in there 2 weeks prior. I was in there, and a lady asked a question: "Did you know Al Capone?" And we got a yes. So this one's 2 weeks later. I'm in the wine cellar with a tour, and we got a growl, and I never figure out what the growl said. But towards the end of it, I said something like, someone was here a couple weeks ago and said a name. Did you remember that name? And it's a burst and it's short. But I think it says, oh, kaboom. So let me know what you think it says. Like I said, it can say something different. I have no qualms about that. Everybody has hearing matrixing. So please let me know what you think it said. Okay? So next week we're going to be talking about investigation part 2. We're going to be getting into the day before the investigation, what you need to do. The day of the investigation, what you need to do. And then we're going to start reviewing some evidence. So thanks so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. If you're a subscriber, thank you so much. If you like the journey we're on, ghost hunting, getting started, please subscribe. And please check out the book, Ghost Hunting, Getting Started in Amazon. So I look forward to hearing any comments from you guys, anything like that, questions. And if you're going out ghost hunting, please be safe, be careful. And if you want, share your evidence with us. That'd be cool. Thank you so much again. I really, really appreciate it. Bye.
Now we get pictures. Tim here down in the basement. Mr. Darren, are you here with us? Last week we were here, someone mentioned a name and you said yes. Do you remember the name?